Oh hi. Dresden, the city in Germany, the administrative center of Saxony, on the river Elbe, approximately in 40 kilometers from border with the Czech Republic, is one of the largest centers of the industry, transport and the culture of Germany. The population makes 547,172 persons. On December 31, 2013. The city is subdivided into 19 districts, which are in turn divided into areas. The old city of Altstadt, destroyed by bombings on the result of World War II and partially restored, is located on the left coast of Elbe. On the right coast areas Neustadt, Pischen. The next areas on the left coast: Kot, Blasewitz, Plauen. In the German literature, Dresden received the name Florence on Elbe. But also abroad, the city is widely known for the monuments of architecture in Baroque style, magnificent collections of painting and other works of arts. The name Dresden, as well as part of names of urban areas, has Slavic roots, from Drevnoserbski Dresdeni, inhabitants of the inundated woods. For the first time, Dresden is documentary mentioned in 1206 in connection with judicial proceedings between Mazonovsky Church and von Count because of disputed territories. As the city, already another document, Dresden is mentioned in 1216. Since 1270, Dresden became the capital of the Margravate of Meissen and was it up to association of the Margravate of Meissen and a Kurfürstwo of Saxony in 1422. In 1485 there was the Leipzig section of the joint state, as a result of which Dresden became the capital of the Margravate of Meissen again. And Margraves received a title of Dukes of Saxony. In 1547 the Kurfürstwo Saxony was again attached to Meissen, and Dresden was the capital of a Kurfürstwo of Saxony. Saxony, and Dresden as her capital, reached the greatest blossoming at the beginning of the 18th century at Augustus Silnum, who derived huge income from management of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Atom works of Pie Pellman and other court masters. The center of Dresden gained familiar shape in Baroque style. Dresden on one of conduct younger Canaletto, who in the 1740th years worked at court of the local elector. In the 18th century, Saxony applied for the leading role among the German principalities and waged continuous wars with Prussia. During 7 Years' War, Dresden was captured and long time was kept by troops of the Prussian King Frederick II. This occupation caused a big loss to the city. In particular, in 1760 Kreuzkirche was destroyed. On August 26, 27, 1813, during the Sixth Coalition War at Dresden, there was a large battle between the French army under Napoleon's command and Begemskov army of Allies under Karl Schwarzenberg's command. The victory was won by the French. 2 Russian generals, F.A. Lukov and A.P. Melicino, died in this fight. As a result of Napoleonic wars, Saxony suffered huge territorial losses. The value of Dresden in political cases of Europe decreased, but it was still considered as one of the largest cultural centers. During the Revolution of 1849, the risen citizens led by S. Warren and M. Lycaon expelled the king who could return himself the power from Dresden, having called to the aid the Prussian king. In 1892 several suburbs are attached to the city. At the end of World War II, Dresden underwent large-scale bombing. From February 13 to February 14, 1945, the downtown was completely destroyed as a result of a series of attacks of the English and American aircraft. At this time, Dresden was crowded with the refugees escaping from fighting of East Front, among which was many women and children. For a number of reasons, the city was practically not protected by anti-aircraft guns, and the aircraft of air defense couldn't fly up. The number of the victims makes from 100 to 200,000 people. Some sources report about their bigger number, the majority of which died as a result of the arisen fiery tornado. Seriously, the Dresden castle residents suffered. Singer and the opera by Zemper were almost destroyed. The dome of the Frauenkirche collapsed a little later. The American writer Kurt Vonnegut, who subsequently wrote the well-known novel Slaughter No. 5, telling about the above-described events, became one of the few survivors in this bombing. After the war in Dresden, there was a headquarters and some parts of the 1st Guards Tank Army of the Hussar, and also the garrison cemetery. After war, of a wreck of palaces, churches, historical buildings were accurately sorted. All fragments are described and taken out to the country. Other ruins were simply demolished. On the place of the city it was actually formed the flat platform with the borders of the former streets and buildings marked on it. The authorities of the deed are built around the restored historic center modern. For the period, avenues and multi-storied buildings. Restoration of the center took nearly 40 years. For this purpose, whenever possible, the survived fragments were used. Missing stone blocks and architectural elements vitisivotsia anew, they are considerably allocated with a light shade of a stone. Many key buildings were recreated only after the reunification of Germany. The population of the area by assessment for December 31, 2013 is 530,754 persons as of December 31, 2011. Taking into account results of a census of 2011. In the city there lived inhabitants. And earlier for the same date it was estimated at 529,781 inhabitants. The climate of Dresden is moderate, transitional from continental to sea. The winter is soft, steady snow cover is formed only in rather cold winters. The summer is rainy and though warm, but short. Usually in Dresden there is no strong heat or frosts, but if they are, then it is short term. The economy of Dresden is based on work of port and production of high-tech goods such as specialized optical and medical equipment, equipment for trade, computers, musical instruments, machine equipment and tools. In the nearby city of Freital, on a porcelain manufactory Dresden. Since 1872 is made the well-known Dresden China. View from Breuil's Terrace. From left to right. 8th Street. George Water of the Dresden Castle Residence, Hofkirche, Opera. Dresden is the center of Saxon Silicon Valley. Here large factories on production of processors of the Intel, NAND Semiconductors, Infineon, Bosch and Global Foundries companies, and also the plant of the equipment for production of semiconductors of the Applied Materials Company and the Center of Innovations in the field of cellular communication of the Vodafone Company are based. About 2,300 enterprises with more than 65,000 jobs are engaged in electronic industry of Saxon Silicon Valley. In the downtown Glasson manufacture of Volkswagen on production of electric vehicles is located. Earlier at the enterprise individually assembled expensive feet and cars in the presence of the customer. All walls of this building transparent, now it is one of numerous sites of the city. In Dresden, the enterprise for release of planes, the Dresden Aircraft Factory D, where there underwent assembly the Il-14 planes, is also located. Now is the enterprise of Airbus concern. Basis of city transport is the tram. Dresden is the large railway junction. Here railway lines of 5 directions meet. By high-speed train it is possible to reach Berlin in 2 hours 10 minutes. In Dresden there is an airport, Dresden Cloche, which is conveniently connected with the city, the suburban railroad, S-Bahn S21 Min. Driving to the main station were carried out including direct flights Dresden, Moscow 2-3 times a week. Dresden is also connected with other cities of Germany and the Czech Republic by the bus traffic, which is made different carriers. The main monuments of Dresden were extended along Elbe. In 1893 through it the bridge for the elegance nicknamed a Blue Miracle was thrown. Trips are made down the river by the flotilla of ancient wheel steamships called the White Fleet. Till 2009 all Valley of Elbe was included into the list of World Cultural Heritage UNESCO, however then was excluded from him. It was the result of construction of the new bridge through Elbe in a historical part of the city. In the city there are world-famous meetings of objects of art, the Dresden Gallery, Grünsgewölbe Armory. A large number of Massachusetts actions which annually take place in Dresden is attracted by a great number of tourists as from Germany and from around the world. Dresden, one of the cities of Germany which are most visited by tourists. 8 million in 2009. Among the foreign tourists visiting Dresden, Russians, Poles and Italians are in the lead on number. The square of the city for 63% is covered with forests and parks. The biggest park is Großer Garten, D in the center, which area is 1.8 km. In the north the city is protected with the wood Dresdner Hide. The cultural life is concentrated in the area Dresden Neustadt D, in which there is a set of nightclubs, galleries, restaurants and café. In 1990-1993 part of Neustadt was the place, the multicolored Republic Neustadt, the self-proclaimed youth micronation. At the beginning of the 21st century in the center of Dresden large shopping centers. Centrum Gallery, Altmarkt Gallery, Neumarkt Gallery, Pragerstrasse. With a set of shops and boutiques in the different price range opened. Thanks to it Dresden began to attract buyers not only from all Saxony as before, but also from the neighboring Czech Republic and Poland. The Palace of Electors. The 15th-19th centuries. With the porcelain panel, procession of princes, applied on a wall in the Catholic Church Hofkirche. 1738-1756. Connected to in the covered transition. In rooms of the residence of Saxon governors, armory, the monetary office, physical and mathematical salon with a collection of ancient globes, a jewelry meeting Gruensgeviop. The Baroque Taschenburg Palace built by Augustus Silny for the favorite Countess Kozel is connected to the residence by transition. The palace, destroyed in 1945, stood in ruins to the 1990th when it was restored by Kempinski hotel chain. The Singer. 1710-1728. Palace, Doctor of Medicine. Pi Pellmann's masterpiece. The architect to whom Dresden is in many respects obliged by the Baroque shape. In the middle of the 19th century, Zemper attached to ensemble the Neo-Renaissance case for placement of the well-known art gallery. Elba Embankment, or Breuil's Terrace with a front staircase. 1814. G.F. Tormeyer. Magnificent buildings in style of Neo-Baroque. Saxon Parliament. 1901-1907. School of the Fine Arts. 1884-1894. Albertinum. 1884-1887. Etc. The Opera by Zemper, one of the most grandiose theatrical buildings of Europe, a neo-Baroque masterpiece. Between theatre and art gallery, a guard room in style of classicism. 1830-1833. K.F. Schinkel. On the New Market Square, the Protestant church Frauenkirche dominates. 1726-1743, it is destroyed in 1945, it is recreated in 1993-2005. Street. Church. A cross. 1764-1800. Before reorganization, I was considered as the main symbol of Dresden. The massive building of the new town hall. 1905-1910. Is near a 100-meter tower and the survey platform. At the height of 68 meters. The Church of Sophia d. The 14th-19th centuries. The only Gothic construction of the old city is sorted in 1962. The small chapel reminds of the place of her stay at Postover Square. Augustus Bridge. 1907-1910, on the place of 1731 G. Bridge of the same name. Connects the old city to New or Neustadt. On the square at the bridge. From the new city. Since 1735 the horse monument to Augustus Silny, so-called, rises. Golden Rider. The Cholera Fountain. Gutsmith's Fountain. The fountain established in the center of Dresden in 1843 on donations of the Baron von Gottschmidt in acknowledgement of the fact that the city was spared by the first pandemic of cholera. The fountain obelisk from sandstone, height of 18 m, is ornated by sculptures. The fountain is decorated by 4 statues. Widukind Saksonski, first baptized governor of Saxony. Saint Bonifacian, Apostle of Germany, Jean the Baptist and Saint Elizabeth Wengerskaya. The bowl of the fountain is held on the shoulders by figures of 4 bearded gnomes. Other temples: Church of Three Tsars, 1732-1739. On the right coast of Elba in the new city. Street Hans Church. The 1760th Classicism. Russian Orthodox Church, 1874. Christ Church, 1903-1905. Grosser Garden. Large garden. Palaces. The Japanese Palace, 1715-1741. On the right coast of Elba. The small summer palace in Grosser Garten or the large garden, 1678-1680. I.G. Stark. The Kurland Palace, 1729. It is destroyed in 1945. It is recreated in 2008. The Saxony's first construction in style of Rococo. Elbsky locks of the middle of the 19th century in the region of Loschwitz. In east part of the city, on the place of the former village, along the coast of Elba, the country residence of Augustus Silny, Palace and Park Pillnitz Ensemble lies. Besides the museums which are listed above in Dresden are Military and Historical Museum, one of 2 largest military museums of Germany. Transport Museum in the building of an arena Jaconeum, 1586-1591. Art Gallery of New Masters and Meeting of a Sculpture in Albertinum. German Museum of Hygiene, 1927-1930. 5. Craze. The Museum of Folk Art and Puppet Theatre in the Jagerkopf Palace D. 1569-1617. The Museum of History of the City in the Landhaus Palace, 1770-1776. Trade and Industrial Buildings. Jevenkos. Dresden. Of D. 1768-1770. Since 1967 serves as hotel. The former cigarette factory Jenitz, 1907. Stylized under the mosque. Dairy bench of Funds Molkerei. Also vicinities of Dresden attract a great number of tourists. Meichen, the former capital of Saxony, which maintained ancient building and the Renaissance lock of electors. The Europe's first center of production of porcelain. At a manufactory there is a big museum in which it is possible to get acquainted with products of factory and bases of production. Saxon Switzerland, the massif of sandstone mountains, national park with beautiful views. Fortress Königstein, one of the biggest fortresses of Central Europe. The Moritzburg Lock, the hunting lock of Augustus Silny, in which, by the way, the movie Fairy Tale, 3 Nutlets for the Cinderella was shot. Freiburg, the ancient mining city with well-remained medieval building. Bautzen, the city with well-remained historical building, including fortress. The center of the Upper Sorbian Slavs. Near him, in the suburb of Kleevalk, there is a park of dinosaurs. Radebeul, the city in 2 came from Dresden, called thanks to the rich country houses. Like Vakerbart. Also Saxon Nice. Center of Saxon winemaking. The Ore Mountains abound with routes for hikes and mountain skiing. Numerous locks and fortresses, for example Wiesenstein Lock, Fortress Stolpen. The comfortable geographical location of Dresden allows to use them as a starting point for trips to other cities, such as Berlin, Leipzig, Görlitz, Prague, Karlovy Vary, which are located only in 1-2 hours journey by train or the car. Regular cultural actions. April, the Dresden Festival of Short Films. May, 10 days. Dixieland. The International Festival of Jazz and Blues Music. August, 3 days. A City Day. December, 1.5 months, since the end of November till December 24. Schnitzelmarkt, the oldest in Germany and one of the most known in Europe, the Christmas market. In the territory of Technical University of Dresden, in the south of the city, there is a Saxon State Library created in 1996. It treats the biggest libraries of Germany. In her there is the German photograph collection. Education. The Higher School of the Fine Arts. Dresden University of Technology. It is founded in 1828. Institute of the Equipment and Economy. The Higher School of the Fine Arts. The Higher School of Dance of Greta Polutka. The Higher School of Music of Karl of Maria von Weber. Evangelic Institute of Social Work. Institute of Economy. The Higher School of Church Music. Officer Academy. Institute of Molecular Cellular Biology and Genetics. The of Society of Max Planck. Institute of Complex Systems of Max Planck. Institute of Research of Polymers of Association of Leibniz. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.